Great honor to meet you, sir.
Harry tells me you're quite the science whiz. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
The difference between a good movie and a great movie sometimes is just casting. The right actor paired with the right role can generate lightning in a bottle for a film production. It can reframe the entire context of a script. In the terms of most superhero movies, the whole film relies on the casting of the hero. However, sometimes, well, rarely, it might prove to be the opposite.
40,000 years of evolution and we barely even tapped the vastness of human potential.
In 2002's Spider-Man, Willem DaFoe delivers one of the most important performances of any superhero film in the last 20 years. But it's in the how that things get more interesting. Green Goblin first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man 14. Stan Lee originally intended the character to be a literal goblin unleashed by an archaeological dig in Egypt. However, Steve Ditko, not liking that idea, made him simply a man with gadgets and a flying glider who used the persona of a goblin to strike fear into people. As his appearances went on, it was revealed that he was actually Norman Osborn, the father of Peter's best friend Harry, and that he had taken a goblin formula in order to give himself super strength. Ultimately, Norman Osborn would prove to be a perennially popular character that would be almost as iconic as Spidey himself in some ways. When it came time for Sam Rami and Sony to produce a Spider-Man feature film, it wasn't difficult for them to find their antagonist and their actor, Willem DaFoe.
I'm here.
If you can mentally travel back to the days of yesteryear when the superhero was right down there with the video game movie or the film adapted from a toy line. You had Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher, that Captain America movie with the son of the guy who wrote Catcher in the Rye, and Lou Ferrigno's Hulk. It was pretty slim pickings. What Raimi and company would create would not only launch the superhero boom that we still are in the midst of today, but create one of the most enduringly impressive adaptations of a comic book ever. Raimi's Spider-Man film is a near-perfect distillation of what works about the character and why he's so important. It's about choosing your destiny, about how the content of your character is the most important attribute anyone can have, about the weight of responsibility and the burden of power. It's the character piece created by someone who's obviously a die-hard fan, and that somehow made its way through the studio system. But a lot of it ticks to the variables that aren't red and in spandex. Raimi's Spider-Man brilliantly executed the themes of what makes Spider-Man an ongoing title-level character. The struggle to balance personal life and a heroic one, the tensions of his role. While the film balanced these overlapping ideas beautifully, it really lives or dies on the shoulders of that antagonist. The phrase, "they always say a hero is only as good as his villain," comes into play here. When they first started discussing the role, Raimi gave DaFoe a copy of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He wanted to emphasize the duality of Norman Osborn, to really lean into the fact that while Spider-Man was attempting to make the right decisions, Norman had made one mistake, and it would define the rest of his life. After taking the experimental compound, Norman's goblin persona would forever be the one in charge of the show, and it would be up to DaFoe to make this tightrope act work. Like here, with DaFoe elegantly convincing the audience that there are two distinct personalities warring for control within his body.
You killed them. We killed them.
We?
Remember? Your little accident in the laboratory.
The technical dance of camera angles and mirror tricks could prove frustrating to another actor, but for DaFoe, it's obvious that he's in his element. He makes such minor decisions as an actor that when you call them out, they seem a little campy. He arches his eyebrows and lowers his voice whenever the goblin is in control.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
If you pay attention, whenever he's being possessed by the goblin, DaFoe extends his neck just slightly and tilts his head down, almost talking through his arched eyebrows. It sounds like something that you'd instantly notice, but it comes off as relatively subtle. His Norman voice is also spoken a register higher than it normally would. It's all relatively impressive.
Performance enhancers. Bingo. Me. Your greatest creation.
Throughout the movie, he executes these operatic ideas in such a natural and grounded way that you instantly believe it. You never question for a moment that these are choices being made by an actor, they just feel organic. And when asked about why he wanted to take on the challenge of Green Goblin, DaFoe himself said, "I wanted to do it very badly. It was competitive. I remember I was making a movie in Spain and they flew a casting director out to do a screen test in my hotel room. That's how I got the role. I had to fight for the role. My friends were like, 'Really, you're going to do a cartoon movie?' Some of them snobbed it, but I thought, no, it'll be cool. This is interesting. Movies from comics were not a normal thing. It felt like something new, and when you had Sam Raimi, he knew this material and loved this material. It was a double role. He understood what he was getting himself into, better than most actors at that time, and it comes across in his performance. You can feel his enthusiasm in every second of this film. Similar to how Tobey Maguire put on muscle for his role, Willem's wiry physique is as iconic today as it was in the 2000s. In many ways, the role is a dark reflection of Spider-Man's truth in the film. They both express themselves through their masks. Peter, who is a nerdy sheltered kid, gets to be who he wishes he was when he dons the Spider-Man mask. He makes jokes, he's charming.
Cheese!
And knows exactly what to say in every moment, in every conversation. Goblin, on the other hand, uses his mask to shield himself from admonishment for his psychotic desires. He embraces the worst parts of himself because he's now free from judgment. And both Maguire and DaFoe play these roles excellently, which is no easy task considering DaFoe is acting through 4 inches of plastic for the majority of the time he's in the goblin suit. And all of these things kind of dovetail into a moment like this. Climactic third act battle between Goblin and Spider-Man sees Norman completely overpower Peter until in a last push, Peter gains the upper hand. But just as he's about to deliver the final blow, the Goblin leaves Norman's mind, causing him to plead with Spider-Man for his life, which works on Peter. And then there's this.
The Goblin killed. I had nothing to do with it.
Don't let him take me again. I beg you.
Don't let him take me again. This might be the best acting in any superhero movie due to its nuances. It's so apparent that for a split second, it is Norman Osborn pleading for his life, and then mid-sentence, the Goblin takes him. DaFoe's voice shifts, but then the Goblin tries to pretend to be Norman, and that's where the Goblin attempts to offer Peter what he's always wanted, a father.
I've been like a father to you. Be a son to me now.
Which leads to the perfect ending for a Spider-Man movie, better than really any other Spider-Man movie has even come close to accomplishing.
I have a father. His name was Ben Parker.
Perfect character work. And none of this would land half as well without DaFoe acting as the backbone for it all. Spider-Man functions much like the ancient myths of Greece and Rome. He acts as a way for contemporary audiences to grapple with ideas of self-determination and moral quagmires. Every ancient hero is judged against their foes. Where would Beowulf be without Grendel, Thor without Loki, Perseus without Medusa? The villains act as the impediment for our character's growth. By overcoming them, our protagonist shows his strength and cunning. In Spider-Man's case, in some ways that becomes less important because it's DaFoe's menacing multi-tier performance that takes Sam Raimi's initial Spider-Man outing and transforms it into something much more interesting. And the point here is pretty black and white. It's not just casting is important, but every single bit of casting is important. Not just your hero, and not even just your villain. Everyone that opens their mouth, everyone that moves on your screen matters, and it's worth remembering that. A superhero movie in the early 2000s, late 90s could have lived and died by its hero, but Raimi and Sony understood something a little bit different, that it lives and dies by everyone. And in turn, it's not just Spider-Man that becomes so special. Well guys, that's it for today's episode of Nerdstalgic. If you enjoyed this one, press the like button down below if you haven't yet done so. Also hit subscribe, that way you won't miss anything. As always, on your screen right now, I hope are 2 more episodes of Nerdstalgic, so you can stay right here by clicking on either of those. And hopefully I will see you guys in the next one.